Princess Lily with another Transgirl C, where we talk about comics, cartoons, and other awesome nerd shit. So, last week I said that we would be talking about Kingsman, the comic versus the movie, their differences, which one I like better, and why. But as you can kind of tell by the title of this video, I like the movie a whole lot better. A whole lot better. And Mark Millar probably should never write anything ever again. But before we get into that, let's talk about things you might have missed. This is, of course, our segment where I talk about a comic, a manga, a cartoon, an anime that you might have not looked into for whatever reason that I think is particularly good that you might enjoy. This week, I am suggesting to you a comedy slice-of-life anime called Recovery of an MMO Junkie. Now, if you took part in Crunchyroll's Passport to Japan contest, you've already seen the first episode, and if you didn't like it, you didn't like it, and that's alright. So you are excused to the later portion of this video. But for the rest of you, I would suggest at least watching the first episode, as I think it's pretty great. It focuses around Moriko. She's a 30-year-old lady who quits her corporate job, or she gets let go from her corporate job. It's a little not exactly specified, but that's okay. And instead of finding a new job or finding, comfort in the real world, she instead turns to an MMO and gets heavily addicted. There she meets another character named Lily, and the two have adventures, and it's kind of neat and awesome, and it's really silly. It's very slice of life. And I like it a lot. I'm trying not to give too much away because I want you to check it out. And if that sounds like something interesting to you, definitely check it out. Definitely look into it. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video this week. And that is Kingsman the comic versus Kingsman the movie. I don't have the DVD or the Blu-ray to show it to you right there. So, just imagine that I do. And, yeah. So, I've pretty much said it in the start of the video. Mark Millar, who is responsible for this comic, shouldn't be allowed to write anything ever. He's never written anything good. You're like, but that got made into a movie, and Kick-Ass got made into a movie. Right, they sure did, but boy, are those comics terrible. And some of you who read comics are like, well, what about Red Sun? That was pretty amazing. You're right, that was pretty amazing, and it was ghostwritten by Grant Morrison. So, yeah. He didn't even write that. So, that's the only good thing to his name. He didn't even write it. Let's get into the differences. Now, this constantly happens, and when I say constantly happens, I mean it's happened a total of 3 times in movie history, because only 3 Mark Millar properties have been made into movies, and that's Kick-Ass, Kick-Ass 2, and of course Kingsman. Now, there is a comic coming out, it's brand new, called Kingsman, The Golden Circle, I believe, or it might have a different title, but it is written by somebody else and looks actually pretty good. Yay! This has every problem that every Mark Millar comic has ever had, and that it is edgy and trying way too hard. Now, in the movie, Eggsy is the son of a former military person who was going to be a Kingsman agent, but he died in the middle of his test, and of course Harry, Galahad, feels responsible for it and pays a visit to his mother and him and gives him the thing. And this whole thing, and throughout the movie, we find out, like at least at the beginning of the movie, that Eggsy, tried real hard and did things, but he always kind of gets sucked back into his poor life, because he doesn't have the social advantages that come with being posh. And so, he quit the army because of his mom, etc. Well, he did stuff. He was really cool. Or not cool, but he at least was a sympathetic character in some way. Gary, his nickname is Eggsy, but Gary in this comic has never done anything. Ever. He quit school, he didn't join the military, he's basically a laser round in lower class England, not doing anything, wasting his life, stealing cars, getting into fights. Like, he's just not a sympathetic character at all. You don't feel for him. You don't care if he gets out of his situation or not. But don't worry, he does. Because his uncle, Jack, is a super secret spy. Don't even know why it's called Kingsman. They never refer to the Kingsman agency. It's the name of the comic. That's right. It's nepotism at its finest. And that's how Gary gets into training to be a secret agent. Now, what I did think was going to be interesting between the comic and the movie, that I think the comic was going to do better, is that in the movie we see Eggsy do training over like a few months, and he gets all these skills and, whatever. It might have taken 6 to 9 months in the movie, is what I want to say that the timeline reflected is in, the growth of his puppy. I don't even think the puppy is in this. Like, I love that little pug. Like, that's great. Like, that entire test of shoot the dog is not in this at all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, but in the comic, they're like, hey, this is going to take you 3 years. You have 3 years of training. And I thought that makes a lot more sense than the timeline we're given for the movie, where he learns everything within 6 months to 9 months. That's, like I said, I'm just going based on how much the puppy grew. Sorry. So, I think that's the only thing that the comic was going to do better than the movie, but that doesn't even happen. Doesn't take 3 years. God, like, okay, so let me tell you why that doesn't happen. Because remember how in the movie he didn't shoot the dog, instead he turned the gun on Arthur and, took the dog with him and then stole Harry's car because, why the heck not? It's not how it goes down in the comic. In the comic, we get to the point where they're supposed to be seducing a lady, and by the way, there are no female candidates at all in the comic book, not even a little bit. Like, I mean, they're kind of background characters towards the end, but no, Roxy doesn't exist in this thing at all, and she is possibly, like, the best thing about the movie. Not even kidding. Like, I love the whole movie in general, but if I had to pick a favorite character, it's Roxy, and she's not in this. Anyway, trying to seduce ladies at a very fancy party. Eggsy, of course, dresses in his most posh clothing, which is, kind of the same style that we saw in the movie. But, of course, it's a very black tie affair. And so people make fun of him. And that's why he leaves. That's why he steals the car and leaves the training. Is because, not because he failed the final test. No, he's doing great on test. He got made fun of and couldn't take it. And, like, I get, because I grew up kind of poor. By kind of poor, I mean really poor. So I know what it's like to be made fun of because of your social standings. But you don't get rewarded for stealing a car because somebody made fun of you and didn't respect you. Like, that's not how that works. And you're like, oh, it's a comic, whatever. Yeah. So, like, it totally takes the situation and it just, like, it does not execute it very well or in a believable manner. Like, his Uncle Jack is very cross with him at the beginning of this because he's never done anything in his life, and this is his last chance to make something of himself. And then he steals a car because some kids make fun of him. Like, I'm really sorry. I would love to sympathize with that, but I really can't. It's just, it doesn't work for me. But let's move on. So, hearing that his nephew, Gary, is being made fun of, or, whatever, he's like, fine. Instead of going through the training like regular, you're going to a special test. You're gonna get back to England from some South American country, through these specific ways, and that'll prove you're good enough to have completed your training, and then you can become my apprentice as a super secret spy. And so he does the thing. Fine. Not vodka, just water. Be a lot better if it was. I'm not drunk. I'm not. But yeah, he completes the thing. He becomes Jack's apprentice, and so the overarching plot of the movie and the comic are the same. And that's true of Kick-Ass as well. Is that the overarching plot is the same. There is somebody who's trying to make a radio frequency that makes people violent, and they're ready to unleash it upon the world to kind of cull the population to stop global warming. That's the entire thing. Now, the person who's doing it is not Samuel L. Jackson, but a rich, nerdy white dude. He's not even stealing dignitaries or anybody important. Well, not important by that level of society standards, like princesses and etc. Whatever. He's stealing people like Mark Hamill. Now, Mark Hamill is super important to me. I love Mark Hamill, but what I'm thinking, anyway, I guess I would kidnap Mark Hamill too. So I can't fault him for that. But those are the kinds of people that he's doing. He goes to meet dinner with Ridley Scott instead of just putting a bag over his head. It's dumb. It's really dumb. I have problems with this comic book entirely. So instead of Jack, who is supposed to be Harry he's supposed to be Galahad. Instead of, remember the scene where Galahad goes to the church, gets infected by the frequency, and there's this huge, amazing fight scene, and it's so cool and it's so incredible, and then he gets shot because, Valentine knows he's there, and shoots him in the head. That's, awful. I mean, it's awful that he got shot in the head, but it was a really great scene, and the emotions played off on it are really great. You understand why Eggsy is so upset and all that. You understand and you get it. That's not at all how it goes in this book. In this book, instead, Jack is sleeping with the villain's wife, for information. He's that's his wife. I'm going to go get her. And I'm going to use my dick to make her tell me what's going on and where I can find this guy. And it works. It works, because of course it works, because this is Mark Millar. God. This is frustrating to just talk about, because this is so, I can't even, honestly. But, yep, and just like how Eggsy watched Galahad, Harry get shot, Gary gets to watch the whole thing. He gets to watch his uncle make it with a lady, because of course he does. And it's just, I can't. I literally can't with this anymore. So, he gets shot. The villain, who is just a nerdy scientist, millionaire scientist, doesn't even know who he was, just assumed he was some guy that his wife was cheating on him with. And so the entire thing kind of ends the same way, with them rushing the base and blah, 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 blah. Restoring peace. And just, not restoring peace, but saving the world. They both end similarly, but the way it's executed through the movie is just monumentously better. The scene with the space balloon, and the rocket to the satellite, that right there, that is happens, but oh no, the person in the comic, who is not Roxy, has the wrong coordinations, and so that doesn't even matter either. So, it's just a whole clusterfuck. And I just, getting to my point, the title of this video, Mark Millar is terrible at writing stories. I mean, he does get published, And so, there's that. But, and he has a following. So I'm not saying I don't know. He's worked for it, and so if he's worked for it, sure. But somebody should be taking these and reading them and going, this is awful. And no, we will not publish it. What Mark Millar does is he makes an idea that's okay, and then somebody comes along and takes that and turns it into an even better movie. And by all means, I think that should be his role. His role should be, here's my script. And somebody else should take that and go, okay, there are some good ideas in here, and now we're going to make this into an actually solid idea where we don't use the word horror, like every few chapters or so. It's got a real problem. But, yeah, that's my views. Just like, my videos aren't long enough to really get into everything. If you really want to read this, read it, by all means. I obviously am not in charge of what anybody reads, and come up to your own conclusions. Maybe you like this better. Maybe you agree with me. But that's the beauty of, I suppose, comics and media in general, is how they affect us differently. So, yeah, my opinion, movie, way better. And I hope the new comic is really great. I'm glad that Mark Millar is writing it. I think I suggested it a few suggestions back, so at least I won't feel guilty about that. Next week, what are we going to do? I'm so, worn out from just kind of ranting about this that I don't know, but it's going to be good. Promise. So until next time, love comics, love cartoons, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.